Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. Sorry for the bad link. I thought it was correct, but it wasn't. So I'm your host, Diane Gibbs, and I am excited to bring you Scott Biersack today, an incredibly inspiring young designer who's an incredible letterer who is a master at making these beautiful letters and these super positive statements. So Scott, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we had a little, I was like trying to do stuff at the very end, so I'm really sorry for everybody. I hope everybody got in, and hopefully they'll get the email that I just sent.
Hopefully.
All right, so Scott, give us a little bit of your background. How did you start? Were you always like an artsy kid? Did you always like letters and numbers? Was that something? Give us a little of your background.
Okay. I always was an artsy kid, sure. I took art class in elementary school. We had all kinds of, I think I have a blog post about this.
Mm-hmm.
We had all kinds of art stuff, pottery, and we were drawing dragons one time, and, I can't remember all of it because I was so young, but it all started in elementary school. Then I moved out to Arizona, and I continued my art path in high school, freshman year all the way through senior year. And I've always considered myself an artist more than a graphic designer. But then I got into design my junior year of high school because the high school was offering a graphic design course. It was totally new. The teacher was new. Everything about it was new and different. So I was like, sure, I'm an art student, so I could do graphic design too. Even though now I know that they're very far from each other. It all started just in art. I enjoyed illustration. I enjoyed painting. And then, I took it further into design and tried to apply those same techniques to my design career. But obviously, graphic design in high school compared to graphic design in college is two completely different worlds, especially the program that I'm in at ASU. It's based around Swiss design, and Swiss design is really, there's a lot of structure and guidelines and rules, and to be honest, that's not really my thing at all, but here I am going to ASU. But it's not, I'm not talking shit about it or anything. It's still a great program. I've learned an enormous amount, and I wouldn't be where I am today without ASU, to be honest.
Well, that's good. I mean, and there's stuff you can glean from all that stuff, even if it's, that's why I always think, well, even if it's a designer that I don't work in that style, I still can learn how they break down their process, and I can definitely apply some of that stuff if that modern kind of really super clean isn't your style,
Yeah.
But you know how to work in it. And some clients you'll want to work in that style, and some clients you'll be able to do your own thing. So
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you were like around 10, because
Yeah.
I've read the blog posts,
Yep.
which are great. You're a great writer.
Thank you.
So, and you're funny. They have some good humor in there as well.
I try.
Yeah, you did good. So you grew up in Ohio, and then around 10 you moved to Arizona, and this was not easy for many reasons. And every time I watch your Vimeo, I cry, and I'm easy to cry anyway. But I showed it to my students because I always like to try to inspire them. I'm like, he's your age, you could be him. So
Yeah.
So what about this time in your life do you think shaped you to be the man that you are today?
Well, let's see. Should I post a link for everyone else to watch it too?
Yes, let's do that.
All right, let me find it real quick if I can. Just so everyone knows what we're talking about.
He has a couple of videos. One, ASU really used you to do their Christmas thing, which is also a really great video. And Scott's back there drawing the whole time, and they're interviewing students and donors and parents. And so that's a good one, too. That's cool.
Yeah.
And it also shows that you can use your skill to do other things. So, but the Vimeo here is great. So give us a little background about how those things shaped you into who you are.
Yes. So obviously the move. I was 10 years old, so like the move was pretty frustrating. That's for sure, because I was leaving all my friends, everything that I knew was home. I was leaving it all behind to go to the desert. It was complete opposites of the United States, and I guess I just wasn't ready for it. But I knew it was necessary because both my parents lost their jobs. Well, my mom worked for America West, and America West has a hub in Columbus. The hub closed down, so we had to make a choice to, she either keeps her job by relocating or, just changing her job entirely. So the choice was obvious. I mean, she just decided to move out to Phoenix because there's a giant hub open here, and, my dad had a possible job offer which didn't fall through. But, long story short, we came out here to Phoenix at the ripe age of 10, and I don't know, I guess it was definitely hard, obviously, because I left everything. It was hard because I'm an introvert, and it's really hard for me to, like, go out and talk to people and meet new friends and do all that all over again because, the kids I grew up with in Ohio, everybody lived down the street. I would go hang out with them all the time. We'd go play and, video games all the time, whatnot. It was just hard. It was just a hard transition for me. But it not only the move. It was just the fact that we were almost dirt poor. Like poverty level. As you can see in the video, like we were sleeping on the floor. We didn't have beds. We barely could eat. Which is again, it was the complete opposite because in Ohio my dad had a great job and so did my mom, and they built the house we lived in, we grew up in. It was a 3-story house, like we went to Disneyland every year. So we went from, I had a really great childhood, and then all of a sudden thrown into the complete opposite of what I hoped my childhood would be. But even though I experienced that, it obviously has helped me become who I am today. And without this experience, I don't know where I'd be. So, yeah, it's been really hard. But
instead of, oops, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. I have to switch who's on screen. I'm just having you on screen, which is much better for me. But instead of taking it and letting it define you in a negative way or just feeling sorry for yourself, that's one thing that really sets you apart, is that you took it and you just went with it, and you were like, I don't know, balls to the wall, here we go. At 10, you decided that, and that is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I decided to do that. I guess it just happened naturally. Like, it wasn't like a choice for me to, stay positive. It was just something I knew I needed to do, I guess. It was like almost instinct. I don't know. I can't really explain how it happened. It just did.
Do you think your family is really positive, and that's what added to it?
Yeah, that's probably true. My mom is incredibly spiritual, and she thinks everything happens for a reason, and so of course now I think that too after everything that's happened. Through it all, I think my mom and my dad have definitely obviously been there for me, and they've helped me grow into who I am and this whole change that I've gone through. So yeah, my parents are pretty amazing people.
Well, that's awesome. So Winston says over there, introvert. Yeah, right.
I mean, on social media, I feel like maybe I give off more of an extrovert kind of feel, but I mean, in real life, if you know who I am, I'm really the kind of kid that's like in a corner or like, I don't know, just like all the time away from people. I don't really like hanging out with people. I don't like hanging out with humans. It's just, it's just not my thing.
Well, I'm glad you said you'd do the interview. Maybe I'm inhuman because I'm just a pixels on your screen right now. But that's another something that a lot of artists and a lot of designers have to overcome, because they don't have that extroverted. They're much more introverted. And this book I'm reading that totally reminds me of you, it's called Drive by Daniel Pink. If you guys don't know it, it's great. I have it, so I could show it. I'm actually listening to it, but I also have the book. And there is a word that's in there that I think describes you to a T, and it's grit, and it says grit is defined as perseverance and passion for long-term goals, and it's also, that's what they say determines your success, is how much grit you have. And I think you have this, the ability to just push yourself through. And Dr. J, professional basketball player, Julius Erving, said, being a professional is doing the things that you love to do on the days you don't feel like doing them. And I think that as a kid at 10, a lot of people don't have that. And instead of just falling into yourself, you push yourself, and still do, even in social media, you become this other, you become who you know you need to be. And I think that's inspiring.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I think that quote is awesome. I think I should start using that.
Sounds good. You should do that. All right. So many people have struggles. A lot of people deal with a lot of things. Everybody deals with them a different way. And how you deal with them and how you, oops, boogers, I keep forgetting. Sorry. I'll get better at this. How you deal with them and how you face them determines the rest of your life. How do you think your experiences have pushed you on instead of driving you into a deep depression? And you talk about this a little bit in your blog, so you guys should read the blog, or down a much less productive road. So what three things do you think you attribute to not letting these bad situations take over?
Well, I can say that, if you read my blog post on my blog, it is pretty personal, and I get into how I was pretty depressed at one point, but I had no idea that I was depressed, because it wasn't like the type of depressed where you're, like laying in your bed, or I don't know whatever you do when you're depressed, not eating, that kind of thing. I had some other form of depression which actually made me really busy. So I would fill my day with things to occupy my mind, so I wouldn't think about all the shit that was going on in my life at the time. Like the move, and I went through a really hard relationship. That's a story in itself. That went on for years, but long story short, through all these things, I don't know. I think keeping busy is definitely one of the things that has helped me. But again, it's really hard to teach someone to get motivated or teach someone to get inspired. You almost have to find it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things you have to do on your own. Just like teaching yourself how to draw or teaching yourself how to ride a bike. It's almost like they're like life lessons, but these life lessons are something you need to teach yourself, and the only way to do it is to go out there and, I don't know, experience the world and life and just let it happen. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have three things that it's hard to teach yourself to do these things. It's like I said, it's just like you gotta do it yourself. It's just, you gotta have grit.
So maybe it's doing something daily, doing it when you don't want to do it, and then just keep going. So
exactly.
Do you have any, so I love sports movies, and I love the underdog. So Rudy is one of my favorites. The one with Sandra Bullock, and can't think of what.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of it either.
Does anybody know what that movie is? Can you put it in the chat? They adopt this kid, and he's really big. Mike. Mike. What is his name? Michael Orr. Anyway, but I like those things. Are like, I can be Rudy, and for me, Rudy was huge because he never was going to get to play. He was like 5'0", never. But he got out there the last game of his senior year, and he just kept going. And or do you have any movies or books that stand out as I'm going to be Rudy?
I mean, to be honest, I don't really read, which I probably need to change.
Or movies?
I definitely watch movies, but I don't know any off the top of my head that I would instantly relate to. Mm-hmm. I just enjoy watching, anything really, like Avengers or, some superhero stuff, just something to occupy my time. It's nothing I enjoy watching inspirational stuff like that. but normally I find it on like Vimeo or Netflix. Watch a documentary. I love documentaries. There's something about them that's just like so enticing. I guess it depends on what the documentary is, though. But like the Steve Jobs documentary with Ashton Kutcher, like I loved that so much that I've seen it like 3 or 4 times within the past week because it's almost like it's something to get inspired about, even though like I have no relation to Apple other than like I own the products, but like I don't really care about I don't really care about like the story. I think it's cool what he did, but like I can't connect on that level because I don't think in that way because I'm just I just draw. I'm just a letterer. But I think the whole story from start to end that's what I enjoy the most is like seeing the progression. And I feel like I apply that in my work as well. It's like seeing the progression of where it started, and sure it could start out really shitty like it did for Steve Jobs, but in the end he made something of himself, and that's the goal in life. You start out with nothing and you get something in the end. I don't know.
Well, we hope so, for sure. I think with hard work and a little grit, we can do it.
Exactly.
All right, so you had a couple questions from audience members, and I want to read those. I always like to get those out early so that people know that I love them. So here we go. So how do you feel about the consistency in your lettering style? In your opinion, does each design job call for its own unique style, or is it all just one expression of your feelings at that moment?
Well, hopefully I don't have a consistency in my lettering style because, I mean, that's one of my pet peeves. I don't want to keep creating the same kind of style over and over and over. I want to create something new every time, just like everybody else on this planet, really. Hopefully. As I'm looking at my website, I could see a good variety of lettering styles, which is great. I achieved my goal. But to answer the question, you're gonna need to change the lettering style depending on the job. Like I was doing some stuff for Disney, and obviously Disney is its own entity. You have to really like have a specific style for Disney because certain letter forms evoke certain emotions, and Disney is really childish and playful. And you have to have letter forms that are childish and playful, not necessarily childish, depending on what the scenario is, obviously. But yeah, and then I did let's see.
If you tell me what you're looking at, I can pull it up on screen.
Let's see.
It's something you sent me.
Yeah, like did I send you the ASU, the video you were talking about, the holiday greeting card?
I think so. Yeah.
Either way, I could post a link.
Post a link. I have Give It Passion. I don't think I have the one from ASU. I don't think so.
No worries. Well, either way, like the point is with this ASU piece, they needed some structure to it, as well as some sort of like flowy, like dreamer kind of feel to it. So that's the basic composition going on here, as well as the illustrations that they wanted me to include to portray the oh, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. To portray the goals and dreams of the students. So, each job, obviously, yes, it has its goals that you need to meet, and it's up to you to figure it out. You got to understand the entire picture and then try and fit your style into that picture. Hopefully that makes sense.
It does. To me, it makes sense. So I'm hearing a little reverb for myself. I hope nobody else is. Anyway, so another question was, do you have a mentor or mentors in the design industry? If so, how do you best utilize their experience to help you drive forward?
Yes, I think it's incredibly necessary to have a mentor in this industry, especially because we're all learning at the same time, and if you go to somebody that's been in the field for like 20 or 30 years, obviously they have more experience and they know what they're doing, so it'd be beneficial for you to go up to them and say, hey, I have a question regarding blah, 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 blah. Whatever the case may be, you can ask them, questions regarding a project. Like I just had a project with the Four Seasons, and I had to prepare some artwork that was going to go on a food truck. And of course, I've never worked that large of a scale before, so I needed to understand, how to set up the artwork and all the little things in between, so that I could prepare this file for the client, because I was handing it off to them, and they were going to take care of it. And I wanted to do it correct the first time so I wouldn't waste my time the second time if I messed up. So I went to my mentor. Her name's Kenna. I've known Kenna from, I think I talked about her in my blog post too. Mm-hmm. She's been my mentor for, I don't even know, 6 or 7 years, ever since I met her in high school. So I've known her for a while, and she's the one that got me the job at Zion, where I work now. So yeah, I mean, without Kenna, I don't know where I'd be. It's totally beneficial to have a mentor to ask questions, someone that's always willing to help, someone that gives you feedback, someone that's there for you, even if it's not design related, even if it's like you have a question about, maybe school. Like I go to her about school too, because she went through the same program that I'm going through right now at ASU, so she knows all about that. So.
And she was teaching you some graphic design, right? That's how you met her. She was a teacher mentor, so teachers are good, but also just somebody you look up to. Do you have anybody in the design industry that you met through Twitter or Instagram?
Oh boy, gosh, there's a huge list of people from Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, I mean, they don't even have to be mentors to be an inspiration. You could just look at somebody's work and say, wow, that's friggin' awesome, and then you want to, somehow something in the work inspires you to like create that, or do something in your own style. So yeah, even if it's not a mentor, yeah, you can get inspired from. Gosh, I'm gonna have to like send a bunch of links of all the people that I follow, because pretty much anyone that I follow on Instagram is somebody that inspires me, or is almost a mentor to me, because you can learn like from their work, just seeing how they structure their letters, or how they go about doing their certain things. You can decompose their work to understand how to do it in your style, if that makes sense.
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So hopefully that answers the question. I think it does.
Yeah, I think that was good. And you know what? I think that's an excellent blog post for you to do some mentors. Then that way you can share some of those things, and then people can, what you've learned, what you've taken. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Just an idea, and I keep forgetting to put myself on screen. Sorry. Okay. What would you tell somebody in a similar situation who really was just struggling, maybe, because I actually think as a student you're doing a lot, and I don't know how flexible your teachers are, but I hope that they're really proud and really flexible.
Well, yeah, for the most part, I would say they're somewhat flexible. Last year wasn't very good because I was definitely putting more work into my freelance stuff and everything that I was doing on the side compared to my schoolwork. And like any teacher, the teacher's going to be like, you're not applying yourself, you're not, taking part in what is given to me at school. So I kind of struggled with that in terms of balancing it all. It's definitely a balancing act when it comes to freelance work, when it comes to living life, a social life. And I'm an introvert, and I mean, obviously, I barely have a social life, but when I do go out, I set aside like 2 hours to see a movie or, do something like that. But, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, so a lot of times, and we're kind of going back to my questions, a lot of times this is history, and I thought one of your first jobs was at McDonald's. And
yeah.
Instead of like just being like, I hate this job, I smell like grease, you really took it and were like, I am going to use this experience, and I am going. It was kind of a launch for you. Would you agree, or how would you tell? Would you tell people to get a job at McDonald's?
I don't know if you should go get a job at McDonald's, but if you do, I'm not saying you're not going to learn a lot. Like, I've definitely learned a lot of people skills, how to talk to people, how to interact with people, that kind of thing. But I think McDonald's just helped my mindset overall, because obviously I knew I hated my life and I hated my job at that time, but I knew I needed something to bring in the money, because that was during the time where we barely had enough food to eat and live, essentially. So the McDonald's job was necessary at the time, and it definitely made me who I am today, because I worked there for 3 years, and I knew I wanted to travel, so I saved up every dime that I had, Ended up saving like over $10,000 to go to Europe twice, which is awesome, with my school in high school. And I guess that kind of helped. It just gave me the dedication and motivation to do something with my life, even though it was somewhat shitty at McDonald's. I wanted to like experience life, even though I was tied down by this really horrible job.
Well, I think it's pretty neat because you have that dedication at such an early age. Because I think 15, 16 is early.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think maybe that's one of the things that's been so good about what you have been able to do is that you could do this at an early age, and you started practicing these habits early, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's how, I've gotten to where I am today, because I started really young. I started, hauling ass at 5 or 15, and ever since then I haven't stopped. And I think it's been about 3 or 4 months, and I reached like a breaking point, and I was definitely burned out from everything that I've been doing, working nonstop. And I never recommend to just like work, because obviously I worked at McDonald's, and then I hit this depression, and then I worked more, and then school started, college was insane, so it was just like a never-ending cycle of work, and I never took a break to take care of myself, which is never a good thing to do, because you're only human once. You're gonna die at some point, and if you don't take care of your body, you're finished. Like, what are you doing? So yeah, I reached a breaking point. It's got to be 3 or 4 months ago now, because I was gonna go to New York. Well, I eventually obviously ended up going, but I was debating whether or not I should go because I was feeling horrible, just from burnout. I just like terrible digestion. I wasn't eating much, but I decided. I saw Nathan Yoder's post about fear and comfort. I'm trying to remember the Instagram handle off the top of my head. I'll have to find a link for it. But long story short, I saw this Instagram that he put together, and that just gave me the drive and inspiration to say, screw it, I'm going to New York whether I feel like shit or not. I'm not gonna miss out on this opportunity to learn from Ken Barber and John Downer, which are legends in the type industry, and I wasn't gonna pass that up. So I saw Nathan's post, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna suck it up and just go to New York. And that was when I hit my breaking point. And then ever since then, I think I've definitely been a lot better off because I've been taking care of myself.
I totally agree. I think people have to. I tell students they need to eat better visually, but I also think if you're putting bad stuff in or you're not getting enough. Of course, I'm telling myself this, and I got up at 4:45 this morning, but I know I need to get more sleep, and I know I need to eat better. But I had a salad for lunch, so that's good. But I think those things really do matter. They give you more. Winston put it: beware.
That's it.
Beware of comfort.
Yeah.
I can't read.
Because that's the thing. I didn't want to be comfortable in what I was doing. I wanted to be uncomfortable. I wanted to, because I knew I was scared. I was nervous for this experience that I was about to endure, and I was like, should I go? Should I not? And I was, toggling the idea of canceling everything that I already planned, my flight, the classes, all that stuff. And I was just like, all right, screw it, I'm going. And I just did. So yeah, beware of comfort, everybody. That's the message.
That's another thing for people to kind of, is when you're afraid just of doing something new, just attack it, just go for it instead of letting that fear take over. Oh
yeah, for sure. I mean, even with everything I've done thus far, breaking from your comfort zone is the most beneficial thing you could ever do for your career, for your life. Just doing the same redundant things day after day is, I mean, for me, it's really boring, and then that's what causes you to want to change something about your life. And that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to New York because I want to learn from Ken Barber. And then the rest happened. So
all right, well, let's talk about lettering a little. I think that's awesome. I can't wait to hear about that more, maybe at Creative South this year. All right, so as a kid, I used to like to draw letters, but I never really thought it was a profession, clearly.
Yeah.
So when did you start really liking to draw letters, and what got you started?
It's a funny story. It all relates to Instagram. Like, my entire lettering career relates to Instagram. I don't know. One day I got an Instagram about 1.5 years ago, just because, all my friends had one, and I had no idea what you do on Instagram other than, post photos of your Starbucks and, food and stuff. I don't know, whatever the kids do these days. But yeah, so I got an Instagram, and I started this challenge to constantly put something creative out for an entire year. And so it started out with like just little designs here and there. I did like a couple type pieces that were typeset rather than actually hand-drawn letters, and I don't even know what else. I did some Pokemon, some Zelda stuff. I'm a kind of a video game nerd. I don't really play video games anymore, but like in my childhood, I would play Pokemon and Zelda and stuff. So I did some designs around that. But then one day I like stumbled across Zachary Smith's work, and of course, like everyone else, everyone's just blown away by his work, and it's awesome. Like, who doesn't like Zach's work? So of course, just like everybody else, I think that inspired me to start drawing letters myself, and I was like, oh, this is cool, I could do this too, and I started drawing letters, and of course they looked terrible, but I knew that through this 365-day challenge that I would practice until one day I got pretty good. So that's it. Like, I saw Zach Smith's work, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then the rest is history. I just obviously I had the dedication and everything else from my past, so I just applied that to this project and forced myself to draw every single day without skipping a day, even if I felt like shit, even if I didn't want to do it, even if I had an enormous workload. I knew that I needed to continuously put something out because people were relying on me. Like, I started gaining an instant amount of followers every day. It would be like 20 and 30 followers, and I was like, whoa, people actually enjoy what I'm doing. And I was like, it was kind of surprising because I was kind of mostly doing it for myself. I had no idea that it would gain this traction and reaction across the community. And then it started getting shared on other social media sites, Twitter, I don't even know, Behance and stuff. Maybe I had a Behance profile, but I never used it until I actually started getting into lettering. But yeah, long story short, just drew every single day for an entire year, and then at one point, like probably 6 months into it, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna do this the rest of my life. And I don't know what it was. Something clicked in my head. I was like, this is the best thing in the world. I don't know. There's something about lettering that's just like super soothing, relaxing. It's just like, it's a stress reliever for me. I don't know. It just makes me happy, so I do it.
Daniel Pink calls that flow, like when you lose track of time, and that's in that book Drive that you can listen to if you don't want to read it.
Yes.
But it's like that place where it doesn't feel like work. So when did you start Chalkboard Saturdays in that Instagram year? Did you start that after, or did you start that?
Yeah, it was during the 365 project that I was doing. I knew I just wanted to throw in some variation, so I tried a different medium. But there was one day, probably like 5 or 6 months into it, that GDSA, the Graphic Design Student Association here at ASU, was lining up to switch out the president and vice president. It's almost like, what do you call it? Like the...
Elections?
Yes, elections. So the elections were going on, and there's a chalkboard in the design school that I painted myself, to be honest, because I knew I wanted a chalkboard in this design school. So I was like, I'm going to take this wall, and I just started painting chalkboard paint on it. And so I used this chalkboard to announce my candidacy for president. And instead of handing out like a flyer, I thought, why not just draw on this chalkboard? So, because people would pass the chalkboard all the time, so I thought it would be a cool way for people to see who I am and what I do and whatnot. So I did a chalkboard piece on this chalkboard, and ever since I did that, I just knew, like, I love doing chalk lettering too, which is exactly the same as lettering, it's just with chalk. So I stumbled across this long chalkboard, which is in all of these photos, which I'll post a link to. There's a building at ASU called the Latty F Core building. Essentially, it's a public chalkboard. Nobody uses this thing. Like, my freshman year, I passed it, and people would write stupid stuff like their Twitter handles, or like "Go Sun Devils" and stuff. And I thought, why don't I actually put this board to use? and I applied my same, lettering techniques and skills to this board. And then I decided to make a project out of that too. So it was like a project within my 365, a project within a project. So then I called it Chalkboard Saturday because, every Saturday, that was when I had free time. That's when nobody was around. I'm an introvert, so I wanted to do it when nobody was around. So, yeah, I mean, the rest is history. I was dedicated enough to go there every Saturday. 5 a.m. rolled around. I'm a morning person, so I get up at 5 a.m. I go to this chalkboard, and I just get to work. And I just put up a, inspirational and motivational quote because, through my past and everything that I've been through, that's something that I needed and something that I wanted to give to everyone else that was passing the board. I wanted to portray some form of inspiration to get people motivated to get through their Monday or something, because people are walking by this board every day. So, I had no intention of advertising myself, or it was mostly just for me to relieve stress and relieve this pent-up, aggression and anger that I had from everything else that occurred in my life. So the rest is history.
So, okay, so these are big. They're not really little.
Yeah, those are huge. I mean, I've had people ask me, can you do a chalkboard piece for me real quick? And I was like, well, it's not real quick. These things take me 5 or 6 hours. I put 5 and 6 hours into it because I enjoy doing it. If I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't put 5 or 6 hours into it. But yeah, the chalkboard's I think it's 7 feet tall by 15 wide or so. Yeah. Oh, it's on my website. 7 feet tall by 15 wide.
So you're doing these, and this is a public place, and there are times when people just wipe it out and they don't live on.
Oh, yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, when I first started doing the pieces, I remember I did a piece that took me 7 hours because it was my very first one on this board, and I was super proud of it. But now that I look at it, I was like, oh my God, that's the worst thing ever. Like everyone that makes something, a week later you hate it. But anyway, after I finished a 7-hour piece, somebody was just so furious or something that they had to erase the entire thing rather than, usually it's people just swiping their hand through it or, erasing a little piece here and there. But this person straight up just erased the entire board. I could not wrap my head around what caused them to do that. Why? The quote, I don't even remember what the quote was. It wasn't anything
offensive or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't offensive or anything. I don't know. This person was just, they didn't want to see some lettering or something, so they erased it. Anyway, long story short, I mean, that day I was pretty furious, but it kind of just gives me another reason to just create another piece, because at the end of the day, when another Saturday rolls around, I'm the one that usually erases it anyway, so I'm the one that's destroying my own work, and it's chalk, so, it's meant to be erased. It's not permanent, so it's whatever.
All right, so tell me a little bit more about the 365. I know it always starts a little rough and then it ends better. But in a 365, were you posting process? Were you? Because I think that it was all just.
It was all completely finished work. I think that's why I hated it. Towards the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to. Because usually, I would dedicate 2 or 3 hours into a piece and then post it on Instagram. And I would feel terrible if I missed a day because I would be letting people down, not only these people on Instagram, but I would be letting myself down. So I made sure that that never happened. So even if I posted a piece at 11:59 p.m., I still got that piece out that day. Yeah, it was definitely detrimental for my school career because I was obviously applying more into my freelance stuff. It wasn't even freelance though, it was just me trying to perfect my skills. There's a lot of people that have done the 365 that I've seen on Instagram that post finished pieces, and then I've seen some that post process, and it's all up to the person doing their own 365 how they want to go about doing it. But just for me, I knew I didn't want to miss a day. I knew I wanted a finished piece. I knew I wanted it to look legit. I wanted people to know I put time into this thing rather than oh, I have 5 minutes in the day, and then just shoot it off, you know.
So how much planning went into it? Were you sketching beforehand and getting an idea? Did you have quotes already picked out? Would you pick all your quotes out on Sunday, or how would that
Um,
work?
you know, whenever I got free time is when I planned for this thing. So I never like planned too far ahead. I kind of just like set out a time window to make sure that I would get it done. You know, like I was like, oh, I have 2 hours now. Okay, I'm gonna do a piece, and then somehow I'd like scroll through my phone, you know, listen to some music, watch something, and somehow I'd like get a quote, and then just instantly draw it. And you know, there's very little process involved because usually with my lettering now, you know, I would do like 5 or 6 iterations, refine, 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 vector it up. You know, the whole process is completely different now compared to my 365 because I knew I needed to get something out quick, so I would whatever came out first is what I posted. So that's why a lot of the pieces I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's terrible because I knew I wasn't putting a lot of time into it. I mean, I was putting a lot of time, but not at the same time, if that makes sense, because I wasn't doing my normal process.
You knew it was going to end, and it was a one day kind of a piece thing. So it would have a shelf life because it was on Instagram, but you knew people knew that it was you were doing one every day. So it wasn't going
Exactly.
to be like a logo that you were doing, and it was going to take, it was going to live forever.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yay, I did something right today. Okay. All right. So where do you get some of your inspiration from now? And we can talk about like this piece. Let's see if I can get to it. So the work hard, play hard. And how big were the Instagram 365 pieces?
Um, roughly the size of a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I
Okay.
would just draw on a piece of paper and then throw on another piece on top of that, ink it up real quick, throw it into Photoshop, do some editing, whatever, and then post it on Instagram. So there's a big process involved with that.
Yeah. So all right. So what about this piece? I mean, I see a lot of stuff behind it if people are looking. So maybe these are some of your sketches.
Let's see. Let me see if I can pull up this piece too. Oh yeah, yeah. The mural piece that I did at Zion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that piece, I started out like any other lettering project. Started out doing some process sketches. I knew that the quote was "work hard, play hard" because that's exactly what we do at Zion. We work, 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 and then when Friday rolls around, everyone likes to go out and drink, but I don't go out and drink with them because I'm an introvert, so I like to stay home and draw letters, which is really sad, but that's just that's just what I enjoy doing. So yeah, I can post a link to some of the process here. You can see that, if you click that link, you can see the process this project took. It started out with, there was 5 or 6 composition sketches, and then I think I landed on one that I really enjoyed. And then I finally showed that to my boss, and then they told me to, rework it again, and that's how we got to the piece that you showed first, the work
Yeah.
hard, play hard on top. So yeah, that was the finished, inked up version, and that thing's pretty large. I don't even know the size of the paper, maybe 14 by 17 or something. No, not 14 by 17. Uh,
It's big.
Anyway, yeah, it's pretty big. I don't know why I was working so large on this piece because I knew I was going to blow it up on a wall anyway. But yeah, you can see more of the process of how I painted it too, because the wall's pretty large as well. I had to use a ladder to get to the top. It took me like 25 hours of painting, which probably is way too long. But I'm not a sign painter or anything. I'm definitely attempting sign painting because I went to some workshops and stuff because I want to learn how they're I'm trying to learn every aspect of lettering there is,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just strictly drawing with a pen or strictly drawing with a pencil. I want to do it all. So I attempted some sign painting here. I still don't hate it yet, which is awesome, and it's on the wall at Zion, so I pass it every day, and for some reason I still enjoy it, so that's good. But yeah, the process from beginning to end, just drawing a ton of concept sketches, refining until this is approved by my boss, so you have to show it to a client per se. And then they gave me the go-ahead, and I just began painting. So I went to Home Depot, picked up some I don't know, typical house paint that you paint on paint your walls with, and just painted this on the wall. And it was just right before our grand opening event, so everyone got to see it. When the event rolled around, there was like 200 people that showed up, so that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So did you use art brushes?
No, I used a Max 6 lettering brush, which is like a typical sign painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing the sign painting ways, because I saw a few videos. I was like, oh, I could do this too, and it's not the same. You actually have to practice that stuff, and I was wobbling, and it's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah, painters use those, those sticks, and the sign painters do too.
Yeah, the mall sticks, yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's helpful, but it does. The people who are on YouTube that use them, it looks like it's so easy.
I know. I was like, oh, I could do that too, yeah. And I just threw up my arm. I didn't even use a mall stick. I don't know what I was doing. But, I still don't hate it yet, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, that's good. So what about the Follow Your Bliss? I think these were some of the stickers that you had at Creative South, right?
Yes. So that piece, I went to, where did I go? San Francisco for the, what was it? The Uncubed event, which is a giant event to basically get a job. There's a lot of companies like Twitter and Spotify and a ton of others that are just there to recruit people, and they had almost like a live art show kind of thing going on where they had giant 15-foot canvases. It was me and 4 other people that were just lined up, and we just got to paint and do whatever we wanted on these canvases. So I painted this Follow Your Bliss thing on a canvas, but I don't know if I posted that. No, I posted that on Instagram. If you scroll way down on my Instagram, you'll find the canvas painted one, and it's just trash. It's just terrible. Everything about it is, again, I'm painting, and it's so hard to paint on a canvas while standing up, and I haven't done that in years, and all of a sudden I just flew out to California to do this thing, and so I came up with this Follow Your Bliss piece on the plane before I arrived in San Francisco, and within 3 hours after I landed, I painted that on a canvas, and then within another 3 hours after the event, I flew right back. It was like a day trip. It was just it was in and out. I just did the piece and left, just to I didn't get paid for it. It was just to go have fun and go meet people. So even though I'm an introvert, sometimes I take the time to okay, I need to push myself to go out and meet people, because if I don't do that, then I wouldn't have the connections that I have today to get the certain freelance jobs that you want, or whatever the case may be. So anyway, long story short, bringing it back to this piece, I did that piece on the plane, painted it on a canvas, brought it back, and was like, holy shit, this sucks. So I threw it into the scanner, scanned it up, redrew it in Illustrator, fine-tuned all the points and stuff. And then I was like, oh my god, I like this so much that I'll turn it into a print. And I made it into a sticker too. So, and for some reason I still don't hate that one either. So that's good. So that's one of my pieces that I still enjoy to this day.
Oh, that's good. I think there's always pieces that we can always work on. No matter how many
for sure.
How many hours we put in, and it looks pretty good, and other people or the client was really happy, but there are still things that we would like to change. And I think we're our worst client when it's for ourselves.
Yep.
It's hard to decide, what you want to save for yourself or whatever. So I think that's a big challenge.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree.
All right. So tell me about this piece. Let me put it up.
The Jason Walker piece, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Jason Walker's a painter from Canada. He contacted me to do a book cover because he's having a solo exhibition at the Galerie des Bellefeuilles. I don't know how you say it. Long story short, he contacted me because he's having a show there, and he wanted a book cover. So he really enjoyed my chalk lettering style, and that was an iteration of the book cover, because it actually ended up being, let me share this. That was the first iteration. I did like 5 or 6 iterations of this, but then this link that I just posted, that is the final piece that it ended up turning out to be, because he wanted it in chalk. So
I'm gonna get there, hopefully.
Yeah, so either way, you know, just like any other lettering job, I started out doing a ton of concept sketches, you know, 5 or 6, showed it to him, got approval, moved forward. I vectored that thing up, and it wasn't just where he wanted it to go yet, so I recreated it in chalk, changed the structure and stuff a bit more, and then, yeah, so that's how we got to where we are here on that link. So that's the finished piece, and I believe the show is sometime this month. I have to look through my emails and find that out again, but because he contacted me a long time ago, like 6 months ago, to finish this piece, and because obviously he's preparing for the show.
Right.
So, yeah, so I have yet to see the final outcome, the printed book. We'll see.
So do you ever do a piece that you misspell something? I asked Nathan this one time, and he's like, yeah, I just fix it in Photoshop, or I go back, and because I'm not a great speller, and sometimes people, I think designers, we're not usually great at math, and we're not really great at spelling all that much. So what do you do when you mess up?
I guess it depends on the piece. If it's in pencil, you know, you might as well just go ahead and erase it and draw it again. But that's just me. Like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around how a letter form should look on the computer. Because when I throw something into the computer, it's got to be really refined, really tight, because basically all I'm doing is tracing it again. I can't draw on the computer. It's just hard for my brain to work that way. So if I was doing it in pencil, I might as well just go ahead and erase it and fix it in pencil. If it was pen, it depends on the mistake. Maybe I'll go back and, you know, change a few things here and there, and then, yeah, fix it in Photoshop. I've done that multiple times. If it's just like if my hand got away from me and I drew a line or something, then, yeah, I'll go back in and just, like, you know, erase that. But as far as, like, redoing the piece entirely, I rarely do that unless it's for, like, a logo type or something really tight-knit and specific. So, yeah, Photoshop's your friend.
All right, so it just so happens that I am interviewing the guys from Type Fight on Friday, so we're doing 2 this week.
Nice.
I'm going to take off September 17th, I think, so I did 2 this week. But you have a couple Type Fight letters, and you did a live Type Fight at Creative South.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, give them a little good opening, and talk about your letters, because they're really, they're beautiful, and they're great letters. Anyway, I'm going to pull up the Z first.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Z, that was my very first Type Fight. You know, the Type Fight guys are awesome. I met them at Creative South when we were all there, and Drew and Brian and the other guys that put it together, it was amazing. You saw the ring yourself, I'm sure. It was a super cool experience just to, like, actually get into a Type Fight ring and just sit on the computer or draw or whatever you were doing and draw a giant drop cap. And I think that was pretty sweet. And then somehow I took home second, and I thought that was pretty sweet too, because people liked my F enough. And I'll post a link to that as well. This has all of my Type Fight letters. So yeah, so I've been in the ring technically 3 times, which is pretty sweet, because usually, you know, you're given a chance and then you duel it out and then that's it. But you know, I did the Z first, and then went to Creative South, did the F. And that was the live Type Fight event, so I created that F in an hour, and now that I look at it, there's a ton of things that I would change. I don't like it very much, but I still enjoyed the process, because doing something like that in an hour was extremely difficult to get a really finished piece to bring home the trophy. You know, I had no expectations of doing that, but somehow it happened. So the guys gave me a free pass to get into the Type Fight for a 3rd time, which is where the B came in. I knew, like, I love type fighting so much that I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it again. Like, the 3rd time, I was like, yes, of course. Like, I even wanted to duel Shauna as well for a 4th time. We'll see if that happens, though. But anyway, yeah, so I got into the ring a 3rd time with my bud Tim. And yeah, it was just super fun. It's just like, you're just, like, I'm not getting paid for this, but, like, it's just fun to just draw a letter and then see the crowd's reaction of if they like it or whose they like better. It's just all for good fun, really. It's just like a big old game. It's awesome.
Yeah, Shauna says the ring was intimidating, and it was really big. I know Mike was having trouble trying to actually get you know, a ring in. He had done
I
for
know.
months. He had gotten this planned, and then they were like, "Our truck broke," and he's like, "Get it here, you know,
Yeah.
on a donkey, get it here."
Yeah,
But
I had no expectations of an actual ring being there. I just thought we were all just gonna like sit in a circle and just like draw letters together and stuff. But I thought that was awesome. Like it really brought the whole like experience together, you know?
it did. It was really cool, I thought. Well, I know we're about out of time, and I want to make sure everybody knows how to follow Scott. If you don't, obviously, clearly he shared lots of links with us today, but you can also get him at Scott Biersack. And Scott, I'm going to have to get you back on because we only got through half of your questions.
I know. It's okay.
But we'll have to have you back. Shauna says it was bouncy.
Yeah,
So,
it was an actual ring. So like yeah, it was like you were bouncing with like they do in the wrestling stuff, you know? They're bouncing.
yeah, so I guess you could have really knocked somebody off if you were like shaking your leg, you know, or
Yep.
something, you know, bouncing back and forth or something.
Yep.
That could have been funny. It was all how you mind play to win, I guess.
Exactly.
But then you also have this whole other project we didn't get to talk about, but I want to share it, and it's called Skate Letters. Do you want to? I'm going to pull up one image, and then maybe you can talk about it while I pull up the rest of your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So skate letters. Long story short, I had a skateboarding company called Alt Skateboards like 3 or 4 years ago. This is when I started out doing this skateboarding company in high school, and I wanted to like actually make it a reality. So I designed some decks, I designed some shirts and hats and stuff. Like tried to really bring this to life. And I ran this site in the shop, the online. It was all online. So I ran this shop online for, I gotta say, like 6 or 7 months, and that was when school started. And then once school started, my life just like, got crazy busy with everything else that was going on in school. So, Alt Skateboards went nowhere. I had 50 decks and shirts and hats and everything, all this product just laying around. And I knew about a year ago that I wasn't gonna like start it back up again. So I kind of just like said goodbye to it, and I wanted to repurpose the decks that I bought because I had 50 decks laying around and I spent a lot of money on those decks. So I painted the decks black. All of them are painted black now, and I wanted to repurpose them by doing something that I love on them. So of course, painting some lettering on them. I'm trying to like get my hand in sign painting again. So with the sign painting, with lettering and stuff, trying to bring it all together. And I enjoy web design as well. So I designed the website, coded the website. I wanted it to be incredibly simplistic, so you can just scroll through it and just see all the decks that I painted. And if you want to buy one, go ahead. But I'm not like trying to, you know what I mean? It's not like a shop where I'm trying to sell these things. They're just available for purchase if somebody wanted to. So yeah, I mean, long story short, it just started out as Alt Skateboards, tried to repurpose the boards, and now here they are on the website. It's a pretty fun project, but I never have time for it anymore because of school.
Well, school would be done in May. You graduate in May.
That's right. Yes.
Yay!
So close.
So maybe I'll have you back on after May so that I won't be part of your stress.
Yeah, because I gotta do a thesis, so it's gonna take up my life.
And maybe we could talk about your thesis and then anything else that you have going on your next part of your journey. But Scott, thank you so much. You're so great, and for being an introvert, you're really good talking back and forth. You carry on a good conversation.
Thank you. I try.
So, well, I think you did great. But thank you guys all for coming. I know there was a problem with the link, so I hope you guys all got it. Clearly you did because you're here.
Yep.
But it'll be on YouTube, and it'll also be on designrecharge.org. So you can catch it on the replay. So, Scott, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming as well.
And I'll see y'all on Friday talking to Drew Roper and Brian Butler about Type Fight. And it's at the regular time, 1:30 Central. Don't let me do the math. And that's it. So we'll see you guys on Friday.